Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user Strawberry Bunny. Am I the a-hole for refusing to meet my mother after she accused me of being in love with my stepfather? English isn't my first language. So, I, 21 female, have always had a good relationship with my mother, 46 female, and that didn't change after my parents divorced for personal reasons. However, things took a turn when my stepfather, 37 male, entered our lives. My mother has always been a bit eccentric, but she was never hurtful, and she always made my older sister, 23 female, and I feel loved. That changed when she started dating my stepfather. While I got along with him and he respected my privacy, my mother started acting differently. At first, it was subtle things like, "You two spend a lot of time together," and "You're getting really friendly." I brushed it off, mostly because I didn't think much of it. My stepfather and I only spent time together when I visited my mom. Yes, we joked around, but it was harmless and never inappropriate. Jokes like, "Looking like death today, huh?" We never got physical, never poked each other or other playful touches, as I do not feel comfortable with being touched for personality reasons, and he has always been respectful. As time passed, my mother's comments became more aggressive. I started to distance myself from both of them to avoid ruining the good relationship we had, though I didn't know what I was doing wrong. One day, my mother invited me over for coffee and cake, and during our conversation, she suddenly asked if I had feelings for my stepfather. I was caught off guard, shocked and mostly confused. I told her no and asked why she thought that. She said it was because we were too close to just be friends, and she noticed the way he looked at me. I reassured her that while we got along well, I only saw him as a father figure and didn't feel anything romantic toward him. I also reminded her that she'd always wanted us to get along, but then she got angry, accusing me of lying and insisting she wasn't blind. The conversation escalated and I stood up, telling her that the whole thing was ridiculous. I left, and she began texting me things like, "I can't believe my own daughter would betray me," among other hurtful things. I didn't respond and talked to my older sister about it. She advised me to not engage with our mother for a while, saying that she thought our mom was acting completely out of character. So I took her advice and stopped visiting and talking to my mother. It's been 2 months of no contact, and today I received a message from her asking if we could meet up to talk about what happened. I'm torn because on one hand, I don't really want to meet her after everything that's happened, but on the other hand, I'd like to resolve things and hear her side. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to meet her? OP, you are not the a-hole. Your mother accused you of something awful and completely baseless, then doubled down by attacking you instead of listening to reason. That's not just hurtful, it's damaging to your relationship. You did nothing wrong. She twisted things into something that are clearly not, and that's on her, not you. So, should you meet her? You don't owe her a meeting, but if you're open to hearing her out, set boundaries. Let her know that if she's going to continue with baseless accusations, the conversation is over. However, if you're not able to meet her yet, that's okay too. It's your decision, OP. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. Trail Sia says, "What a pathetic woman, not the a-hole. Maybe she shouldn't date if she gets this ridiculous. I wouldn't meet her yet. I doubt she is suddenly cured of her madness. Let her feel the consequences for much longer than this, or she will likely do this again. She is the one who betrayed you, not the other way around." Strong Storm 2167 says, "Not the a-hole, but if you do meet up with her, take your sister with you. Do not go alone." Puzzle-headed Rib 8887 says, "Not the a-hole. I do wonder if your stepfather had an eye for you and your mom noticed and thought you reciprocated those thoughts, but it's a heavy accusation to put on someone with zero evidence. I wouldn't meet up with your mom after that accusation, and it could also be an insecurity for her, marrying someone who's a decade younger than her." And OP responds, "Thank you for your perspective. I thought about that possibility too, but honestly, my stepfather has never given me any reason to think he had inappropriate intentions. He's always respected my boundaries and our interactions have been harmless. I feel like my mom's accusations are more about her insecurities than anything else, especially with the age difference between them, as you mentioned. It's just really hurtful that she jumped to such a heavy accusation without evidence or even talking to me properly about it. I agree that meeting her right now feels like a bad idea, but part of me still wants to resolve things. I just don't know if she's ready to approach this maturely yet." And infamous Cup 7097 says, "She went after a younger man and couldn't handle the insecurities she placed on herself when comparing herself to her younger attractive daughter. That's not on you. Just because she has issues doesn't mean she gets to create issues for others, not the a-hole." Alright, well, the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole, so let's move on to the update to see how the story ends. "Thank you for all the support and advice on how to handle the situation with my mother. I never expected my post to reach so many people, but I truly appreciate the help. You all helped me a lot, and without you guys, I wouldn't have known what to do. Now, here's the update. After 2 weeks of thinking about what to do, I decided to text my mother and agreed to meet her at a cafe, as I didn't feel comfortable going to her house. I was nervous, of course, not knowing what to expect. When we met at the cafe, we didn't hug like we usually do, and my mother looked like she hadn't slept in days. Before I could even say a word, she immediately apologized and admitted she was in the wrong. That completely caught me off guard, as I hadn't expected her to apologize so quickly, but I was relieved that she did without any argument. I asked her why she would think something so awful about me, especially since she knows me better than that. The moment I confronted her, she started crying, something my mother rarely does, which left me in shock. I did my best to calm her down. Once she had settled, she confessed that my stepfather had been cheating on her for a year and she had found out just a few weeks before she accused me. She told me that he never showed any typical signs of cheating. He never acted differently and was still as loving as ever. She only found out by accident. One morning, they were having breakfast together and she was using his phone to look up a nearby cafe since they had planned to go out for lunch. At that moment, he received a text from a woman asking if they could meet that night. From that day on, my mother started going through his phone, taking screenshots and gathering evidence for the divorce. Despite everything, she had never met a woman with the name of the affair partner, and neither had I or my sister. My mother even asked one of his friends if they knew a woman with that name, but they didn't know either. She told me she didn't know who the other woman was and had been trying to gather evidence. She wanted to know who the other woman was, not to confront her or ask why she slept with a married man, but to find out if she was also in a relationship or married. If she was, my mother intended to inform her partner. For now, though, she has chosen to let it go, as the divorce process is already stressful enough. Anyway, each day her paranoia grew and she started seeing signs that weren't really there. She was hurt, overwhelmed, and not thinking clearly. She never meant to hurt me. To be honest, I never thought this would happen. I expected my mother to apologize and then try to act as if nothing had happened. But yeah, I do feel sad for her. Going through something like this is painful. At first, I was in shock and then angry. Angry at my stepfather for betraying my mother, hurting her, and making her feel like she isn't enough. Being cheated on is always hurtful. Without hesitation, I sat beside her and hugged her, reassuring her that I forgave her and that I was there for her. I asked if she needed any help, and she said she'd let me know, and I told her that if she ever needs professional help, I'm willing to pay for her therapy. Regarding my stepdad, I have no idea what's going through his head, but I am extremely angry at him. I never imagined he would do something like this, especially since he and my mother always seemed so happy together. She always told my sisters and me that she couldn't be happier, but I guess we never really knew him. Now that I understand why she acted the way she did, I won't hold it against her in the future, knowing she was hurting the whole time. I am grateful that she realized her words were wrong and didn't just try to act as if nothing had happened. I was afraid I'd never speak to her again, but luckily we were able to talk things out. So, for now, things between my mother and me are okay again, and I'm doing my best to support her through the divorce. My older sister is also aware of the situation, as I've kept her updated after each meeting with our mother, and she's offering her help as well. Thanks for all the support. Well, it's a good thing that your mom came around, and now that she has your support, she can go through her divorce with somebody there in her corner. So here's wishing you guys the best in the future, OP. Thanks for sharing and take care. And now, let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user Red Lips Good Sex. Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother out after he sold something of mine without asking? So me, female 25, and my brother, male 28, have always been okay, but right now we're not speaking, and my family is saying I overreacted. Basically, he was staying with me for a while cause he was in between jobs and needed a place to crash. I wasn't even asking him to pay rent, just to be respectful and not treat my place like a hotel. Spoiler, he did not. He would leave dishes everywhere, come home late, drunk, bring random people over without asking, and just act like it was his place instead of mine. I had multiple talks with him about it, but nothing changed. Then, last week, I noticed my AirPods Max were missing. I always keep them on my desk. So I asked him if he saw them, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I sold them. I needed some quick cash. I was gonna tell you." Like, bro, that was my stuff, and they were almost new. He didn't even act like it was a big deal. I told him straight up he had 24 hours to pack his crap and leave, and I wasn't joking. He left, but now my parents are saying I was being too harsh and should have given him more time to figure things out. Like, am I crazy? He stole from me and sold my stuff. Am I the a-hole for kicking him out immediately? You're not the a-hole, OP. Your brother stole from you and then acted like it wasn't a big deal. That's not some minor sibling argument. You gave him a free place to stay and he repaid you by treating your house like a hotel and selling your stuff. What were you supposed to do? Let a grown-ass man who steals from you continue living in your home rent-free while he figures things out? The fact that he walked out without even trying to make things right tells you everything you needed to know. Actions have consequences. You kicking him out is one of them. Your parents can take him in if they feel so bad, but they don't get to tell you how to handle your own home and your stolen property. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. Psyche's chest hair says, "Not the a-hole. He stole from you, and even ignoring that he was just an awful roommate. The only reason why your parents are mad is because they don't want him to move back home." Professional Mess 84 says, "Not the a-hole. Someone in my family was an addict, which I didn't realize. It seemed like parties a lot. I let them stay with me. He was taking my stuff and selling it. It took me a while to notice. He was also not trying to get a job. I kicked him out and changed the locks on my house. What the actual F? Maybe it's not that bad for you, but what else has he stolen and sold? Yes, it's stealing, not taking things." Quiet Hamster 6509 says, "I'd be telling my parents, do you want to pay me for my AirPods or shall I seek the funds through a court order? I have to go through all my stuff now to see what else he's stolen and flogged. I want nothing to do with him. He's your responsibility, not the a-hole." And OP's only comment is, "I mean, it's not about the cash or something, it's about that he stole from me and didn't even apologize to me." And the top response is from Lyndon Lil Blue Balls and says, "So call the police, but first get him to admit over text that he stole them and sold them. Also, go over to your mom's house to talk to her. Once you get there, act like you need to use the restroom, then take something she really values and leave. Let her know what it's like to be stolen from." So the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole, and I do agree with many of them advising that OP should just have them report it stolen and call the police. In any case, let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. Wow, I did not expect my post to blow up like that. First of all, thank you to everyone who commented and shared their thoughts. I figured I'd give you all an update since things have escalated. So after I kicked my brother out, he ended up crashing with a friend. My parents were still on my case about how I should have given him more time and that family helps family. But plot twist, he did it again. Apparently, while staying at his friend's place, he sold one of their gaming consoles, I think a PS5, for quick cash. Same exact situation. Just took it, sold it, and acted like it wasn't a big deal. And guess what? They kicked him out immediately. My parents suddenly silent, upside down smiley face. I haven't spoken to my brother since, but now that my parents see he's just out there robbing people, they're backpedaling hard. My mom actually called and admitted she might have been too quick to defend him. My dad? Well, he's still pretending the whole thing didn't happen. Yeah, turns out I wasn't overreacting. My brother is just a walking disaster. Thanks for the validation, Reddit. Well, OP, my guess is either your brother's gonna get beat by somebody he's robbing, or he's gonna run out of people to rob, or he's gonna end up in jail. But it is not your problem. And your parents? Well, they're not your problem either. Take care, OP, and thanks for sharing. And now, let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user Icy Computer Poop. You want your uniform back? Come and get it. I used to work in a hotel as a porter. We had to wear white shirts and black pants, and they provided us with a uniform, which was just a nondescript black vest. I worked there part-time, but also had another part-time job at the post office. I told them about the second job before they hired me. They asked me what I'd do about conflicting shifts, and I said I would work for whichever company booked my time first. So if the post office said they wanted me next week on Wednesday to Saturday, and then later the hotel asked me to work that time, I'd have to say I was unavailable. I would also naturally do the same thing if the situations were reversed. I honored that agreement the entire time I worked for them, and it wasn't a problem for over a year. Then one day, I get told by the hotel that I have to work an upcoming weekend. I said I couldn't accept the shift because I had already booked one at my second place of work. My hotel boss said, "Well, this is a huge contract we have, a massive wedding taking place on the same weekend as a large conference, and we need all hands on deck." I reminded them once again that I couldn't accept the shift if it conflicted with one I had previously booked. The boss got really annoyed and pushy and tried the "we have to be able to rely on you" BS spiel. I reminded him that they could rely on me doing exactly what I promised in my interview, and that they had been able to rely on me for over a year. I also pointed out that it's not reasonable to demand that I work a shift that I hadn't agreed to work. The boss was still pissy and he hung up. They didn't fire me, but over the next month, I couldn't help but notice I never got any shift offers. It became obvious I was being fired, but without actually being told I was fired. I called several times and asked if there were any shifts, but always was told, "We have nothing for you at this time," in a cold tone. I checked with my friends who worked at the hotel, and they all said that business was normal and they could see no reason why I wasn't being offered shifts. No worries, I just picked up more shifts at the post office and they paid almost twice as much, so cool by me. Another couple of weeks go by and my direct supervisor at the hotel called me to ask for my uniform vest back. I asked why, saying that I hadn't been fired, so as far as I know, I still worked there. My boss just kept sidestepping my question and refused to answer and refused to admit that I had been fired. He just kept saying, "We need that uniform, you have to give it back." I said no problem. He starts saying, "You can drop it off anytime," and I interrupted him to say, "No, I won't be dropping it off." He stopped for a moment, flustered and said, "But you have to, it's part of your employment contract." "Yes, I know," I replied. I read the contract. It merely states that I have to return the uniform when requested. It doesn't say I have to deliver it to you, so I won't. You can send someone to pick it up at a time that is convenient to me. The hotel was in a different city from my hometown, so it was about a half an hour to 45-minute drive to my place. My ex-boss tried to bully me, but funny how losing his ability to deny me work had shifted our power balance. He sputtered and stammered as he tried to figure out some way to goad or coerce me into driving the vest to him, but finally gave up. He said he'd send someone sometime, so be ready for whenever that is. I told him no, that he'd have to contact me to pre-arrange a time that was convenient. I said I'd check my calendar and he could call me back in a couple of days to make arrangements. Petty, I know, but hearing the exasperation and annoyance in his tone as we spoke was very, very enjoyable. He never did send anyone to pick up the vest, so I ended up using it as part of a Halloween costume. Zombie hotel porter. Well, if you have got nothing to say except excellent. Thanks so much for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.